Okay, y'all. So it's Podcast Tuesday, and I know y'all have probably seen me talk about it in my stories. I don't know when I'm going to release this episode, but half of my face has like a palsy situation. Y'all know I play too damn much, so I cheated on my injector. I do not get Botox on Groupon. So y'all, my injector, she's like beautiful. I've been with her. She's the only person that's ever done me, right? I absolutely love her. But I wanted to do some stuff to my lower face. Do not ask me why. I knew I wasn't going to have to film until March. But then today I'm here sitting with an amazingly beautiful human being. I could not pass up the opportunity to talk to her. So if you're watching this and you're like, yo, what's wrong with Naja's face? We went a little bit too heavy with the Botox this week. So today I am talking to a phenomenal young lady. Her name is Rhonda on the Rocks. And so Rhonda on the Rocks, right? Rhonda, first of all, look, guys, if you're listening, please go over to the YouTubes, TikToks, wherever to watch this, because I text Rhonda. I said, girl, look, we're filming in the evening. Let's bring a drink. So listen, before we get started, y'all, while you all are listening to this dance music, Rhonda and I are going to take a swig real quick. Let's go, Rhonda.
I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. Naja Hall.
Oh, that's cinnamon.
Much needed.
Rhonda, I always like to start off with our guests just telling a little bit about themselves. Of course, I know about you, but introduce yourself to the I Know I'm Crazy audience and tell them why you are crazy just like the rest of us.
Whew. Well, my name is Rhonda. I am new to the podcast content creation life. My podcast, Rhonda on the Rocks, was born on August 31st, 2024. So she is
A baby.
Yeah, I'm like, how many months is that? Like 5? I'm not a math teacher. Yeah, so I'm new to this game, but I am enjoying it. I would say I am crazy for doing this, honestly. Like, I share a lot about myself, the good, the bad, the ugly, for all of the world to see and hear. And I don't necessarily think that's crazy, but some people would think that is crazy. So
do you get phone calls from the family? Like, first of all, do your loved ones listen to your podcast or do they watch your content?
So I have more of my friends than family. Like, I know for sure that my mom does not listen to it. She is the pastor of my church. And so she just chooses to refrain.
Oh, but I do have. Let me watch my mouth on this one.
No, you good, girl. You ain't gonna cuss more than me. Oh. But I do have some family members who listen to it. And, some are like, ooh, girl, that was rough to listen to. Like, the content is good, but sometimes it's hard to get through it with all of the, I'm just very raw. I'm very on the rocks.
It's colorful language. And the most intelligent people are the ones that actually use colorful language. I
believe
read
that
somewhere. And
I believe
gotta
that.
Be smart as a
For real.
I just want to take it all the way back to the beginning. When you and I were, just doing our preliminary, getting to know each other, trying to figure out what we're going to talk about in this episode. Because we got so much to cover. Yes. Oh my God. We got ratchet ass dating stories. We got, but before we get into all of the crazy town, I want to just start from the beginning. And you're adopted. Rhonda is adopted. Can you walk us through your adoption story?
Sure. So when I was 5 months old, my biological mother passed away. At the time, my biological father was not capable to care for my brother and I. And so my maternal grandparents adopted my brother and I, legally adopted. When I was about 8, my grandmother, who had been raising me as my mom, passed away. And so it was me, my brother, and my dad, who's really my grandfather, but my father. It was us for a while. When I say a while, it was a very short period of time. About 6 months after my mom died, my dad got remarried.
So granddad, do I call him granddad or dad? Like, what are you?
You should just say dad. Yeah, dad is.
So mama passed away. Daddy found somebody. Mm-hmm. He got married in 6 months, or he repartnered in 6 months?
He got married in 6 months.
How long was he with mom?
My mom that passed away?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Your mom that raised you.
I don't know. My oldest brother at the time was like 25, so at least that long they had been together. Yeah.
So he found, let me just pick a bone with you men. 6 months. Dudes ain't gotta wait. And could he not, and you said something. You said when your biological mom, when that happened, dad, the biological father, couldn't take care. Not judging, but what was he doing to where he couldn't say, oh, okay, I'm gonna come get my kids?
He was not working. He had some addictions. Yeah, that's pretty much all I know. And and because I was so young when all of this happened, everyone has a different story, right?
Yeah.
Like we can get into this later, but I met my biological father when I was 20, and his story, of course, was nothing like what I had heard my entire life. So
okay.
Yeah, before very, very different.
Let's go into. Okay, so when you lost by your mom as a baby, you're raised by grandma, who we're going to call mom. What do you remember most about those early years? Because you're 8 years old. That's a baby.
Yeah.
You were young.
Yeah. I remember quite a bit. Like we did a lot of traveling. I remember like a couple first days of school, being around family. I remember birthday parties and stuff like that. But what sticks out in my mind the most is when she was sick, and just how traumatic that was for us because we had already lost a mom.
Yeah.
So to be in this like situation kind of again, but this time like I'm aware of what's happening, was pretty like traumatic.
It was you and your brother at the time. Your parents had 2 kids. So both of you guys came to live with them. Okay, so then now you're remembering, because you're aware. I guess at 8 years old, we have an awareness, but we're still very much downloading information. So was your 8-year-old brain able to process, she's leaving, she's not going to be here too much longer?
Yes. And I just remember, because I remember asking her, like, are you going to die? Like when she was like starting to get really sick and like, you could tell that she was changing, like her memory wasn't there. I remember her saying like, oh, you guys need to get ready for school. And I'm like, it's 9 p.m. But I didn't understand at the time what was happening. Like she was declining. But I remember asking her, like, are you going to die? And she was like, well, I'm not going to leave you, Rhonda. Like I'm not going to leave you.
And she was right. I bet she's still.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Still, baby, I am Alice Cohen through and through.
Hello. So there's 2 of you guys, and your experience. And I don't like to ask people to speak on other people's experiences, but through your own perspective. Like you had a brother, it's different for boys and girls.
For sure.
How did his experience differ from yours?
I think,
or from your perspective, because you can't, I don't want you to speak for him.
Yeah, I remember a couple of things. So I remember when my dad told us that my mom had passed away, my brother was like inconsolable. And I was just
How old was he at the time?
9.
Oh.
He was 9. So we're only 13 months apart.
Ooh, y'all are close. Okay.
Yeah, very close. So people think we're twins and we're just like, sure. Okay. We just go with it.
Yeah. Sure.
So I just remember him being like, no one could console him, like just crying. And I just was like numb, I guess.
Yeah.
And so like, I felt like I had to be the big sister, although he's older than me. I felt like I had to be like strong or like help him. So I didn't really deal with a lot of that grief initially. Like I kind of, the older I got, I started to act out. And when I look back on it now, I was like, oh, I was acting out because I did not know what to do with all of these emotions. Like my life literally changed overnight. My life changed overnight. And between 1995 and 1996, like I had lost a mom, got a new mom and a sibling all within 1 year. A new sibling.
Lost a mom, got a new mom and a sibling?
And a sibling.
Now, wait a minute. Okay. So, so when dad remarried and now you and your brother are transitioning into this new household, did he make it easy? Did he do a good job at managing all this newness in you guys' lives? I know he was grieving too.
Yeah.
But how did he help you guys manage and navigate?
I think my dad did the best he could. At the time, therapy and stuff like that wasn't a big thing. Like there was no like grief counseling and stuff like that I believe that he knew of. And so because I grew up in a very like religious household, everything was like, well, we'll just pray. We're just going to pray. And we would read a lot of scriptures. We would do a lot of praying and we would do a lot of talking to God. But there wasn't anything tangible that was happening. But my dad and I were very, 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 very close. And so he would talk to us and like, you know, help us through it the best way that he could. But he was like, hey, I still got to manage this household. I really think because we were so young, it was like, okay, I adopted these kids with someone. Now that person is gone. My biological kids are grown and one is deceased. And now I have her children and I don't know what to do with this little girl. She's 8. Like,
how many biological children did he and his wife have?
3.
Including mom, your biological mom.
Right.
So then you got what, auntie, uncle from him. Were they able to step in and help? Because, you know, normally I feel like everybody needs to pitch in, but were they grown and were they able?
Well, my mom was the only girl. So I was left with 2 uncles who we were raised as like, you know, I call them my brothers now. But yeah, I was left with 2 uncles.
So, you know, on this podcast, we talk about non-traditional families, but I don't feel like we talk about the family coming together. Because, you know, we talk about it through divorce and stuff and remarriage, but yours is through death. And grief. And so now dad gets married again 6 months after mom is gone. I gotta ask, Rhonda, did he know this person before?
Yes, so he did. And we actually knew her too. My brother and I knew her too. She was someone that we went to church with who actually spent a lot of time with my brother and I. Like she was someone from the church that would like, we would go over her house and she would like do stuff with us and hang out with us. And what is so funny, Naja, let me tell you how God don't play about me. When my biological mother was a teenager, this very same woman who is now my mother worked with my mom at a boutique in Chicago. And the manager at this boutique used to try to hit on my mother, my biological mother. And my mom that God gave me would stick around and like protect her and like watch over her and make sure that this man wouldn't like bother her. And however many years later, she ended up being the same person that took care of us.
So, you know, I think 8 years old, it's a good age because she was coming in as stepmom, dad's new partner. You know, we don't have those teenage hormones yet, and we don't have. And then you also probably didn't have outside influences. Did anything not feel right at that age? Was there anger? Was there resent? Or did you say, well, we already know her. She's here. It is what it is.
So it was twofold for me. Like part of it was, I'm glad to have a mom, right? Like I really wanted to feel that connection because it's just me, my dad, and my brothers. Like I'm the only girl.
Dudes in the house. Come on.
Yeah, like there was no one to like do my hair. My dad was trying to find people to do my hair and find people to buy me clothes and stuff like that. And so I was really grateful to have a mom, but I was just sad. Like I was sad because I had lost 2 moms. And I'm like, I think a lot of it was fear. Like, what if she leaves? Not to death, but like, what if she leaves? Do I get another mom? So at 8, I'm like, well, what happens next?
I'm afraid to attach myself because are you going to leave too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that helped. Well, not helped. That started a lot of anxiety that I dealt with even to this day. Just a lot of anxiety about what's going to happen next. I think it like influenced a lot of my flaws in dating, having this like anxious attachment to people. And this like fear of abandonment, that like all of that happened at that age influenced me in who I am as an adult. So
you know, they say none of us really made it out of childhood okay. We all carried some traumas. And, you know, when we think of when our big trauma happens, that's maybe a lot of times for a lot of us, unless we seek help and do the work, that's when we physiologically stop maturing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know a lot of people that are stuck being that 8 or 9 or 10-year-old that lost a parent or suffered some major trauma or abuse or an accident. And that's where they're stuck now. So it's interesting that you mentioned attachment style, because I kind of want to touch on that here in a little bit. Were you able to maintain any close ties with your biological parents' sides of the family? I mean, aside from the parents that raised you. Because, you know, sure, there's a lot of aunties, uncles, cousins.
Yeah, so I've maintained a pretty good relationship with my cousins on my deceased mother's side. It's gotten better over the years now that I'm an adult.
Yeah.
My biological father's family, I didn't know anything about them until I was like 17. But yeah, my mom's family, we still kept in touch and, you know, kept up with my cousins and stuff. So
I just am trying to still process, because I don't even know where to start. Like, you know, I know what they're going to want to ask me. It's like, I could not imagine coming in 6 months after a person that I already knew. I would think that we see a lot of men do it, especially, you know, we back in my grandparents' day, we'd see them have 13, 14. You hear of the woman having 16 kids. And now we realize that was just functional. They had to have farm hands. They had to have people to help do the work. So large families were advantageous. I kind of see it as when men with children recouple so fast after the woman is gone. It's because they need a nanny. They need a caretaker. They need somebody they need a straight up help person. It's less about, oh my God, we're head over heels in love. It's like, you need your kids need a father. My kids need a mother. Boom. Yeah. Was this that?
Not in my opinion. I do believe that initially it was like, hey, we can come together. My mom did not have kids when she married my dad. Like, she was single woman, degreed, like living her best life, very similar to how I am right now.
Yeah.
Like almost identical. Doing her own thing. So she wasn't like looking for a come up in any way. Like, she was very much living her life. Yeah. But according to my mom and according to my dad, like, they both believe that God put them together. And I am not the person to like negate what people believe that God told them. I also believe that them coming together was for a purpose. And so I don't believe that. I think initially my dad was like, yes, and like, I also do need help because I got these 2 kids and I got to figure this out. But I don't believe that it was like, let me just find anybody.
Clearly, you know, it was. How long have they been together now?
Well, my dad passed in 2020, but they would have been married 30 years this year. Okay. They'd have been married 30 years this year. So 30 years. When my dad passed 5 years ago, they've been married 25 years.
25 years. So she took it on home with him. Is she still here? She's still with us?
Yeah. Yeah. I was just over there today.
Okay. So they had a child together as well, right? Yeah. So then you guys are blended because now there's an ours baby in the scenario. You and your brother are adopted. You are the children. I'm sure at this point, was there any feelings of, you know, because I started a lot of this to get rid of the evil stepmom trope, but sometimes it's just a very real thing in some people's experience. Was your experience always good? Did you always feel accepted by stepmom?
I went back and forth. I think I was just used to being the youngest. I was my daddy's baby. Like, I was his world. Here comes the
baby. Yeah. Here comes.
So when my little brother came, I was like, this is too much. Like, now all of the attention is away from me. And so that's when like the acting out would start. Like, I did a lot of crying. I did a lot of like, tantrums. I still, you know, but that was only at home. Like in school and stuff like that, I never like acted out, never got in trouble.
At school, but at home, you come do
baby
food.
Hell, okay? Hell. Really? Hell, yes. And I when I look back now, I can see that, but at the time, I just had so many emotions. Like, I really honestly did not know what to do. And then when I did do stuff and I got chastised, now I'm like, oh my God, don't these people know my mother is dead? It's just me in this world. And I don't know. It was just, I just had a lot of emotions.
You had big feelings and you just didn't have a way to quantify them. A lot of adults don't know how to quantify those feelings. Okay, so you mentioned something. You speak, and I watch a lot of y'all's videos. And by the way, gang, everything is going to be tagged down below because I want you to follow Rhonda everywhere. I'm going to say that a million times during this chat, but she's just started her podcast. But I just believe in her story and her efforts. She works so hard. So please follow her. So when being raised by, and I don't want to get it twisted. You raised by mom. And for those of you that are keeping up, this is her grandmother, but this is her biological mother's mother. And then she passed away. Both of them passed away. And then now she's living with a stepmom who now, thank God, she regards her as a mom. You mentioned that the transition was tough. You became hell. Did you suffer that crazy teenage years that we all fear happening to us? Like, were you that crazy teenager?
To a certain extent, right? Like I wasn't sneaking out of the house, still in the car, stuff like that. It was more so like just my attitude, like not wanting to be told anything, wanting to do my own thing.
Like typical teenager.
Yeah. My dad did not play. So it was only so far that I was going to go. And it wasn't so much of me listening to my mom. I just reverenced my dad so much. So it was like, I don't want to upset him. I don't want to disappoint him. As a teenager, I really could care less what my mom thought at that time. I was like, girl, please. Yeah. Like, I ain't trying to hear nothing you have to say. I think part of that is just being a teenage girl too. So I just didn't want to hear anything that she had to say. And it was all about what my dad said, and everything that he said was like the Bible. Yeah. But gratefully I had like older cousins who were like in college, who would come and like hang out with me and spend time with me and kind of talk to me about my attitude and the things that I was saying and doing. I had aunts, and like I would go to my grandmother's house for a weekend if me and my mom were butting heads too much. So I had outlets, now, gratefully.
That was who do you refer to as grandmother? That was
my stepmother's mom.
Now you refer to your stepmom as mom, and that is such a rarity in this world that I live in. What did she do to establish you feeling so safe with her for you to give her such a title?
I think when my little brother came along, I wanted.
And how old were you at that time?
When Chris was born, I was 9. We're 9 years apart. So it was literally the next year. But when he came along, I wanted to.
Wait a minute. Damn. Yo, you came to live with grandma, who is mom. She died when you were 8. And then you had a new kid at 9. That's a lot of stuff to happen in under 2 years.
I'm telling you.
Sorry to interrupt you. Go on.
No, it's okay.
Do some girl
it's
math.
Perfectly fine.
Okay.
It's perfectly fine. But yeah, I wanted to be my little brother, if that makes sense. Like I wanted this like normal family, a mom, a dad, some siblings. We go to school, we go to church, we live in this house, and all of that other biological this and biological that. Like I didn't want to have to contend with that every single day. So it was just like, this is my mom. And because again, we were raised in like a faith-filled household, it was just like, okay, God, this was obviously what you wanted for my life. And so I'm just going to trust that. At 8 and 9 years old, I didn't necessarily feel like that. But as time went on, she was the only mother that I had. And it was never a difference between, my little brother's name is Chris, between Chris and 7 and I. It was always like, these are my children. I was her daughter from day one. It was never like, oh, these are my stepkids, or those are Sydney's kids and this is my son. It was never like that. And so because of that, it made me feel more comfortable. Like, okay, well, I can't, if I'm your daughter, then you're my mom.
Okay.
And that's
would your grandma / ma, would she approve of the woman that your dad chose to bring into you guys' life and take care of you?
Yeah, I think so. Because she trusted her with us before she was even sick, or, like I said, we would go to her house, hang out, like spend the night. She would do my hair, like all of that
Wait a
stuff.
minute,
So
is
I
she
had
significantly younger? Because this was your
then my dad.
this is your grandfather, your dad. So she's
Yeah.
because I was like, wait,
Yeah,
grandma
like
probably wasn't
13
childbearing
or
age. Okay,
yes, she's like 13 or 14 years
yeah.
younger. So my dad would have been 80 this year, and my mom will be 65 on
Okay,
March the
so he got
2nd.
him a
So
little young little spring
yeah,
chicken.
yeah.
So if you could go back and tell the young Rhonda, the teenage Rhonda, the one who became rebellious and that was confused and frustrated, if you can go back and give her some advice, what would you tell her if you could just sit with her and be like, sit down right here, little niece. Let me talk to you.
Yeah. I would tell her to like relax and open your heart and just like listen, because I felt like at that time I knew everything, so I didn't want to hear anything that anybody else had to say. In my mind, like nobody has experienced what I'm experiencing. I'm the only person in the world who's ever lost a parent, even though I got a sibling right next to me who is literally walking the same street with me. But for me, I was just like, I no one knows what I'm experiencing. So I would tell my younger self, like, take a deep breath, like relax and just listen. Like you have a very good life. You did not miss a beat when your mom died. You never, like, nothing of your like personal care or any of your hierarchy of needs went unmet. So just relax. It's gonna be okay.
Just relax. That's such a easier said than done thing. But if we
Girl,
could
tell me
all
about it.
just take a deep breath and relax, because truly, one day it's not going to be okay, then we'll be dead, and it's really going to be okay because
Right.
boom, then we're free. But
Right.
it's like it's always going to be okay. You mentioned something. I want to talk about attachment styles. Clearly, you've done the work, and you know that you say you are anxious of what did you say your attachment style is?
And an anxious attachment.
Anxious attachment. And y'all, we got to talk about the pissy dating pool, because
Honey.
I talk to a lot of my single guy and girlfriends all the time just about what it's like. Number one, I do think there's always been piss in the dating pool. I don't think this is some new 2025 or whenever y'all will listen to this. I don't think this is some new stuff. But how does a person with anxious attachment, how do you navigate new potential relationships without making them combust before they can even get started?
One, you have to be in therapy. Like, be in therapy, have been in therapy. You really have to do the work, and you have to acknowledge that this is a problem and that your attachment style is the problem. Probably not the only problem, but sometimes we are in relationships and we're like, well, I don't know what happened. I didn't do anything. Like, I just showed up as myself and it just all went to hell. And it's like, no, there's something that you are doing. So first is like acknowledging it and finding out, like, where is this coming from? Why do I feel like
who was your aha moment? You ain't got to call on names, but typically it's something to be like, yo, I got to fix this because this can't keep happening. Was there like a smack in the face moment where?
Well, I wouldn't say smack in the face, but I definitely had a day where I was like, why did you act like that last night? Like, why do you get so worked up? And when I was dating my ex, a friend of mine and I were kind of going through hellish relationships at the same time. And so when I would talk to her and she would tell me like, girl, he didn't answer the phone and I was just so worried. So I called him like 30 times. And hearing somebody else say that, I'm like, girl, that's crazy as hell. But then it was like, that's crazy. But then I'm like, whoa, you do the same thing. You have that same anxiety. Like, girl, what's going on? And so for me, it took hearing somebody else say that this is something that they do, where I'm like, oh, it doesn't sound normal to me when I hear it. So that means that if I'm doing this is probably a problem. So, yeah. So
that's a major level of self-awareness that a lot of people just don't possess. because you and your friend was swapping stories, and you're like, wait a minute, girl, you crazy, but you're like, I mirror that behavior.
Yeah. And then also just not wanting to feel like that anymore. It was just like this nagging, like constantly feeling anxious, constantly being on edge, constantly checking my phone, checking locations and all of this stuff. And it's just like, it started to like drive me a little bit insane. And I was like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. Like I need to see someone and figure out why I can't just relax.
Without sharing too much of the modalities and the things that y'all did, what did you learn? What was the key? When you were sitting on the couch or talking to your light worker, your therapist, or whatever. How did you say, oh, okay, this is what I need to do? Like, what tangible advice can you give to people out there that are listening to this to be like, damn, I just called somebody 30 times?
Yeah. So for me, my therapist had me make a list. So for instance, I would call my ex and he wouldn't answer the phone. And I would start to think of all of the reasons why he's not answering the phone that were like negative. He got pulled over. He with somebody else. He's ignoring me. I said something wrong and now he doesn't want to talk to me. So all of those things. And so my therapist was like, well, what are some other logical things that could be happening? He could be asleep. He could be on another call. He could have left his phone in the bedroom and went to the bathroom. Like all of these logical things. And I was like, yeah, why didn't I think of those things first? Like, why did I automatically go to, oh my God, like he's up under another woman or I did something wrong and now he doesn't want to talk to me.
Portion of it, right?
That's it. That's exactly what it is. So it's almost for me, it just went hand in hand. Like those abandonment issues along with the, like some other insecurities and then that anxious attachment. It was like, I'm no good for anyone to like be dating right now. Yeah. But I had to like literally start making a list of like, they could be in a grocery store. Maybe they didn't hear their phone ring. Sometimes you think you have your ringer on and actually it's on silent. Sometimes it be on do not disturb, like normal things that happen every single day. And so I had to start
things to where.
Absolutely. So I had to start really training myself.
Yeah.
To say like, okay, he didn't answer the phone. He could be asleep and finding something else to do. Like I literally had to become busy.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to take my dog for a walk. I'm going to clean up. I'm surely there's some work I could be doing. Something else I could be doing instead of like being fixated on him and why he's not answering the phone when it could be just normal reasons why that's not happening.
Was that the reason for the breakup is some of your behaviors?
It probably added to it, but the old me would have said, hell no. I had nothing to do with our breakup.
And it's not our
right. But yeah, I'm sure that it was very heavy for him to have to tolerate like all of this, like, anxiety and like anxiousness. But there were some things that he did that contributed to me feeling anxious, me feeling abandoned. Like there was, there was some contribution on his part. So
okay, and I get that it's always it's a two-way street. It takes two to tango.
Yeah.
How does a person best deal? Like if somebody's going to have a successful romantic relationship with Rhonda, and we know, hey, there is an anxious attachment style there because of past traumas. You have done the work, but we know the work never stops. It's a continuous thing that we have to do for forever. But what's like the ideal? How should the person be that is going to have success long term with Rhonda on the Rocks?
I think that person definitely needs to be a good communicator and be that like text, phone call, whatever, but just like, let me know what's up. I don't want to have to guess what is happening. Like if you are working from 2 to 6, if I don't hear from you by 8 o'clock, just, hey, I'm good. Or if I call you and you're busy, just say, hey, I'm busy. Right. And not that may not always be able to happen, but I really thrive in spaces where communication is really, really good. Even like today, right? Like I was waiting for you. I text like, hey, I'm here just to let you know. You know what I'm saying? Like I need to make sure like I didn't miss anything. Like,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. And it was me
So
that was a problem today. Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. But no, I
okay.
completely understand. I too thrive in situations like that. In professional relationships like that, romantic ones where, it's all kind of on the up and up. I want to talk about Rhonda on the Rocks because I kind of feel like, I feel the podcast bros, I think people need to snatch their mics. Because once Best Buy started and Amazon started selling these mics, it was over. But I love your platform. I love what you do. Can you just talk to us about what made you get started and what's the crux of your content?
Okay. So prior to Rhonda on the Rocks, a friend of mine and I started a podcast called Worst Date Ever. And it was essentially just us talking about how horrible the dating streets were after we had broken up with our long-term partners. And so getting back into the
friend that was calling 30 times?
No. This person and I are, we're no longer friends. We were friends at the time, but
okay.
We've gone our separate ways. But we started that podcast and it was great. Like I enjoyed it. But I was getting a lot of feedback from friends and people who were listening. Like, you really stand out on this show. And I feel like you are holding back because your co-host is not as expressive or open or vulnerable as you.
You were carrying the show, Rhonda. It's okay to say it.
Thank you. I'm glad this is a safe space. I was carrying the show. Okay. Yeah. And I didn't even realize it, right? Like it took other people to say that to me for me to start to question like, oh yeah, I am kind of doing that. So anyway, we tried to make Worst Date Ever work. It did not work out. And so from there, I was like, maybe I should try to start my own thing. I was a little nervous. I'm like, what am I going to talk about? And people are like, well, are you going to do just what Worst Date Ever was? And I was like, no, I feel like eventually I'm not going to be dating anymore, right? I'm going to be somebody's wife. I'm going to be somebody's mother. And I want Rhonda on the Rocks to still be relevant, even if I'm not only talking about dating. So on my podcast, I do talk a lot about dating and relationships and love. But I just feel like there's so many different avenues that you can go with that. And I like to bring light to that. So I have had people on my show that have talked about like polyamory, kinks and BDSM. I just recorded an episode last night with a young woman who lost her virginity at 35 and what that meant for her in terms of like empowerment and all of those things. So I try to bring a variety of people in to talk about dating, relationships, love, but also just life and how life is impacted and influenced by all of those things. So It's a good time.
It sounds like a great time. I got to come on there.
Yes, please.
So you talk a lot about your healing and self-discovery. Where in terms of aligning the work that you do with all the healing that you've done, how have those two things merged to create the Rhonda and the Rocks phenomenon? Like, are you incorporating a lot of that in your show?
For sure. I like to talk about the things that I went through. Like my last relationship was pretty toxic, traumatic. There was a lot of abuse in all different ways. And my podcast has truly been a way for me to heal. Like I lived in silence for 3 years. Like I lived in silence while all of this was happening. I was dealing with this anxious attachment. I was being abused. I was like constantly just in a state of emergency. And so Rhonda on the Rocks was a way for me to just like tell my story and be like, y'all, it is actually okay. And a lot of people did not know that I experienced that until after the podcast had come out. And people were like, dang, like I just didn't see that. And I'm like, think about that. How many people around you are experiencing or could be experiencing something like this and you have no idea? So we have to be mindful Yeah, we have to be mindful, be kind to people. You know, if you feel something or you see something and that's a friend, pray for them. Talk to them, ask how you can help. Like, hey, like, you know, get your friends out of the house sometimes and like really talk to them, but know when to back off too. Because for me, I would tell people only so much because it was so much shame that came with the type of relationship that I was in. Yeah, like people who knew my dad would have been like, they were like, girl, your dad would have never gone for nothing like that. Like, how did you end up there? And
how did you end up there?
So
that might be a loaded question, but you know,
yeah,
we all say what we're gonna do and what we ain't gonna do. Until we have to do it.
Until we do it. And I think about that all the time. And part of it, I feel like was God's way of humbling me too, because I have said on many occasions, like a nigga could never put his hands on me. If he put his hands on me, he better kill me. I'm big, like
I've
chest
literally
out,
said that.
head up.
Never been. Yeah, you thump me, I'm a fold. So I said, but then I've said in a situation where it happened.
Yeah, and so my dad passed in 2020, like start of the pandemic, and my ex and I got together like later on that year, like September, October-ish. And my ex was someone I had known since I was 18. I'm 37 now. So I knew him for a very, very long time.
You were a girl.
And it felt comfortable. It felt it was very familiar. And I think where I went
was
wrong.
He a Leo? Was that ex a Leo?
Girl, Aries child.
Woo! What's their birthday? Well, no, don't say it. April or March?
April. Yeah. And I'm a fire sign too. So I like.
What you is?
I'm a Sagittarius.
Okay. I don't know too much about Sag.
I'm a December Sagittarius.
Okay. Yeah. Cheers to Rhonda, you're not drinking your drink, and you,
girl, because I'm trying to talk and focus.
Look, drink your drink. I'm gonna talk real quick. So y'all, right? Drink your drink. So the reason I'm asking Rhonda these questions is because we talk about the fluffy, fun side of relationships, and she said something. We all say what we are and what we ain't gonna do. I've heard. So you don't know how many women I've heard say, "Oh, if my husband ever cheated on me, I'm leaving immediately." That's not considering you got kids, you got finances. Maybe one of you is not able to work. Maybe if you try to leave this person, they will make your life a living hell and turn your children against you. So, we all got big old kahunas until it's time to sit on them.
Absolutely.
So then you're in the situation, boom, dad is gone, but this person is familiar to you. So, and I always think, the people that we've known for a long time, and then we get with them, I don't really see a lot of those relationships working out. Yeah, y'all are going to correct me if I'm wrong. You always do.
You're right.
But
you're right.
Like they carry a level, and this happened to me too. They carry a level of resent for you for making them wait so long. And they've had to see you with other people. And then inevitably, the person that they had built up that you were in their head, you're going to disappoint them because you're just human. So now they're
100%.
full of regret and resent. And now somebody's got to pay. So what was it in that moment when you like, oh shit, I'm in this situation I said I would never be in? What happened?
There were small things that kind of led up to the like physical abuse. There was a lot
coming. Did you ever?
No, I didn't.
No small inkling, no hitting a wall, no.
No, it was more so like, there was a lot of verbal stuff that happened and a lot of like name calling and stuff like that. But then there was like apologies immediately after. But then there was like, oh, I was drunk or I was high. I was this, that, and the third, I love you. And there would be periods of time where it was like, okay, we good. We've been good for like a month now. Like everything's fine. And then Mad Day would come and it would just be complete mayhem. But in my mind, for some reason, it was just like, this person says that they love me. So surely they don't mean these things. But I really, again, that anxious attachment was like, I can't imagine my life without this person. I've already lost my father, who was the closest man to me. So I held like vice grip held on to
Your
my
life.
ex because I was like, I just don't want to be alone. I can't, it's too much loss. It's too much
Yeah.
loss.
And this
And
is somebody
so,
that had been around and
exactly.
knew your family. So then there's that connection because you're like, dang,
Absolutely.
I got to get with a new person. They're gonna they're not going to know my loved one, and that's so important.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then when we talk physical, oh God, it's just so hard to fathom that. Like when we talk physical, it happens one time, it happens two times. And, you know, then you see this is not going to stop. Now we're in a cycle, right? We're in the cycle of the physical and the verbal abuse happening. At what point do you say, Lazarus, I got to pick up my bed and get up out of here, or somebody is going to get hurt or where they can't walk no more?
Yeah.
So at what point what's the D-Day for you?
So one particular time he had got angry, and the bed that we slept in, he like took apart and put the bed in the garage. I came home from work and my mattress and box spring was just on the floor. And I was like, you know what? I'm not even about to address this. I'm just going to act like nothing ever happened. Because I'm tired of going there, right? I'm tired of getting enraged. I'm hurt. I'm screaming. I'm acting a fool. I'm tired of being this person. It's like really starting to take a toll on me. And like my health was going haywire. My blood pressure was out of control. It was just so many things going wrong with my physical body. And I was like, I don't want to leave here. Like I want to live. And this is not the way that I want to do it. And so I didn't have a reaction. And so he would do like little things like take my car keys. And so I would panic because I'm like, if you take my car keys, now I'm stuck, right? Like I can't leave. I can't even try to get away. And so this particular time he came, he took my car keys while I was asleep, and I got up and I was just like, give me my keys. So we went back and forth and we were like tussling, like fighting. I'm trying to get my keys. And he was like, if you want your keys, call the police. And I was like, what? And he's like, if you want your keys, if you want them so bad, call the police, let them come get me. So I went in my room and I called my brother who lives in LA. And he never answers like the phone on the first ring. My brother be doing his thing. And so this particular time, and it had to be like, maybe like 1:00 in the morning there. So I was not expecting him to answer the phone, but I'm like, I can't call my mom who lives 10 minutes away from me. Because of the shame, right? Like I was just like, but I'm gonna call my brother and yeah. So I call him and I'm like telling him,
call somebody that you didn't think would be available, but you're like, at least I tried.
Yeah. Which is,
it's crazy just how so we weird. Do that.
Yeah. Like I did not think that my brother was going to answer the phone.
And there he is saying hello.
Yeah.
And now you got to tell him.
Yep. Now I have to tell him. So I tell him what's happening. And I was like, he just said like, if I want my keys back, I need to call the police. And he's like, if you don't call them, I will. So you figure out what you're going to do. Like straight like that. Like there was no like, oh my God.
Calm. He can't get to you right now. So he has no choice but to be calm.
Yeah. And it was like, he forced me to make a choice because at that point I was, I had never been put in a position where I really needed to make a choice. I did, but I just ignored it. I just, but he forced me to like make a choice. So after that, I was like, well, I'm not gonna call the police. I called my ex's mom and I was like, he's going crazy. Like, and I had talked to her about like little things up until this point.
Calls. Where is he at the time? He's just laying there like,
he's in another room. He's in another room.
He's thinking I got her on lock. She's not going to do anything.
Yeah. He was unbothered. And we didn't just tussled. Like, I'm talking about we didn't got down.
Oh, this is full on.
Yeah.
We're going at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm trying to retrieve my belongings.
Yeah.
And also like in fear, like if he takes my car, like I'm stuck, like all of these things going through my mind. So I call his mom and she's like, call the police. Just like that. Like everybody like, girl.
But mama, your brother, I said, baby, I don't know what you want me to do. The police can get to you faster. She also knows her child. Too.
She know your damn fool.
She knows her child.
Yeah. So I call the non-emergency number.
You just don't want to call 911. You calling everybody but 911.
Listen, I have never in my life had to call 911 for anything outside of like stuff that I do for work. But like, I've never had to call 911 for myself. I live in a predominantly white neighborhood. So all I could think about was like,
oh, Lord,
the police coming to my house.
Food.
Yeah.
Negroes acting a fool.
Absolutely. So all of these things that are not important were running through my mind at that moment. My image, you know, what the neighbors are going to think, you know, what my brother is going to think, what his mama going to think. And it's like, girl, you are in here between a rock and a hard place. So I called the non-emergency number.
10 minutes passed since the tussle. So then, so we're about 10 minutes in now. You called non-emergency for your emergency.
Yes. I called the non-emergency number and I tell them like, hey, like my boyfriend is here. We're fighting. Like he's refusing to give me my car keys. I need the police. And so the lady very calmly like asked me for my address and all of this. Like when I replay it through my mind, I'm like, why wasn't I like
frantic?
Yeah. It was just like,
you were probably dissociating though.
I had to be.
You've been through enough already. So your body's like, we know this type of trauma. Let's dissociate and be calm.
Yeah. So the police came and he was telling them, because at the time he was like living here, but this wasn't his permanent residence. So the police, you know, like made him leave. And then he was like, oh, I was trying to leave. I had her keys because my car needed a jump and all of this BS.
Just come on, sir. Let's go ahead and get your stuff and let's go.
Yeah. So they, you know, made him leave. And
he left your keys with you.
Yes. Left my keys with me. And he left. And I just remember feeling like, how did my life get here? Like, what is going on here? Like, I am educated. I'm beautiful. I have all of these things going for me. I have a family that loves me. It's not like I'm just like my mom died and I went into the system and I've just been an orphan and had to get it out the mud. I ain't never got nothing out the mud. Never. Never. So like, how did I get here? Like, this is not what's supposed to be. But I knew too that I was incredibly disobedient to God. I knew from day one that I should not have been with him. And God gave me so many ways of escape, so many times. But I used to beg God, please don't let him leave me. Please, God, just let us stay together. I wanted to have children with this man. I just believed that he was as good as it could get. And God had to reshape my mind. Like, I have something so much better for you. You have to let go. And so that night I was like,
emergency came and helped your behind to let go. Yeah. You know what I typically see though is we do have to hit a rock bottom moment. Some of us have to hit a rock bottom moment or get knocked in the head before we're like,
for sure.
Oh, that was a red flag. No, it's neon at this point. So it sounds like you know, when you said, how did I get here? That was your rock bottom moment. Because you're saying, okay, this is as bad as I ever need to let it get again. Now, I know he called you the next day or that same night. I know he called. Did you let him come back?
He never moved back in. But there were times after that we hung out. We were still intimate a few times after that. I really did have a hard time letting go. And even after that, there were times where he was physically abusive. And it wasn't until, so that was in March of 2023.
So once he opened up the can of being abusive and being like, oh, I know this is acceptable, it just never stopped.
No. And it wasn't like an everyday thing or even like an every week thing.
But now it was an option for him. Now he knows it's an option.
Yeah. And so I still just kind of battled a lot of bit with this like being alone and just being by myself. And so we kind of dealt with each other. So I would say between March and September of 2023, I probably saw him like 5 times within those months. Yeah. And I felt myself being like, this is actually ridiculous. And not so much like blaming myself or blaming him. It was just like, enough is enough. Like I'm tired of it. Like, it's kind of old. It's kind of corny at this point. Like, you're accusing me of doing all of these things. You call me, like, you can only call me so many stupid bitches. Like, sir, okay, you're gonna have to come up with something else at this point. Like, it's just
numb at this point.
Completely numb. And so I talked to him, and the last time I saw him was in September of 2023. And the last time I've ever spoken to him was in October of 2023. And there's been no contact. If he's attempted to reach out to me, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I recently...
So you don't even know how he feels about you sharing your experiences on your show. It's not your concern, because these are also your experiences. So,
and I'm sure he has a story to tell. And if he does, he should start a podcast. Like, do what I did. Take a page out of my book. Start a podcast, baby.
You want your show to be heard, and do that. Wow. Ooh, Rhonda, this has been what a ride. What a life. And you're only 37, but I feel you've lived so much life, so many chapters, so many stories. What is next for Rhonda?
Rhonda on the Rocks. Rhonda Alyse. First of all, me as a person, I'm speaking to my future self. I am healthy. I am loved. I am whole. Whew. I am everything that God created me to be. Rhonda on the Rocks is a podcast that people love because they learn something from it. They get joy from it. Like, I love to laugh. That's probably my favorite thing to do in life. And so I like to bring that kind of...
right now. So
I like to bring that kind of joy to other people. And so I want my brand to be a place where people can garner strength and feel like they can be themselves. Like, I want everyone to feel like I can be myself on the Rocks. I don't have to have all of this frill. I don't have to have all of this fluff to please other people or to make myself digestible to other people. I can be myself, straight, no chaser. And the people who are going to love me will love me. And the people who don't, that's okay.
So, but in this case, our audience is everywhere. Our love, our partnerships, like, our people are everywhere. And
everywhere.
My prayer and hope for you is that you recognize those very quickly. Your spirit of discernment is heightened in a beautiful way, that you have the whole armor around you, and that all your dreams come true.
Thank you.
Tell everybody where they can find you, how to connect. And like I said earlier, guys, all of her links will be shared down below. But where can we find you? Because we need Rhonda in our lives every single day.
I am everywhere that you want to be. I am on Instagram at Rhonda on the Rocks, Facebook at Rhonda on the Rocks, TikTok at Rhonda on the Rocks. You can listen to Rhonda on the Rocks podcast on Apple and Spotify and now YouTube. YouTube is new for season 2, so I'm really excited about that. So follow me on all of my platforms. My email address is also there if anyone is interested in connecting and having me as a guest or wanting to be a guest. All of my information is there. So yeah, Rhonda on the Rocks.
And like I said, y'all, please go and spam her and tell her how much you love her. Tell her that you heard her here. Tell her we want her to come back on. Hopefully she'll, when I'm unfrozen, she will have me on her show so we can laugh for real. But listen, thank you all for listening to another episode of I Know I'm Crazy with Naja Hall. We are here every other Tuesday, and sometimes I post episodes every Tuesday. Y'all know it just really depends on how I feel. But we're everywhere your favorite podcasts are streamed. I love you so much, and thank you so much for watching and listening, and we will holler at you next time.
I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. Naja Hall.